What's up YouTube, it's Twisted here, back with another in the series of Is It Worth It? This time is Kerbal Space Program. Now I've chose this one because I've got some friends who had shockingly never heard of it. And when I realised, hang on, well if they haven't heard of it, maybe there's other people out there that haven't heard of this truly fantastic game. Now it's on Steam, it's about $26-27, don't know what that is in pounds sterling. Or euros for anything else for that matter, but whatever it is worth it. Now it's still classed as being in early access, however the game is fully playable as it is now, plus there's thousands of mods for it, so you won't get bored of it anytime soon. Now the game itself, as you can probably tell from the name, is about building spaceships and going into space. Now as you can see from the background chart over on the left there, you have the moon. This is obviously a representation of Earth, but it's called Kerbal, and that's meant to be the moon. However, there's more than just those two planets. Well, that planet and that moon. There is a lot of things to do, in addition to building things like space stations, probes, satellites, you name it. If you can think about doing it in space, you can do it on this game. So, without going too far into it, let's just jump straight into it and show you it. So that was the main menu. You hit the start game and you've got these. Now the first thing I recommend any new player do with this game is the training missions: construction, flight basics, orbiting 101 and to the moon part 1. Now pay attention to orbiting 101 and to the moon part 1. Orbiting is quite possibly the most important skill you learn to do in this game. Without being able to get into a correct circularized and stable orbit, you ain't going anywhere. To the moon shows you the basics of how to transfer from a planet to other celestial objects. Highly important, so make sure you do them if you do buy them. Scenarios. Now these are just various scenarios that you can play. You know, like Space Station 1, the moon orbit, impending impact, aviating curb in orbit. Now I've done these in reverse order because asteroid redirect missions, believe it or not, created with the collaboration of NASA. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. NASA themselves are huge fans of this game. Why? Because this game employs real-life physics, and the way it happens in real life is the way it happens in this game. For years, I always wondered to myself, why, when something's going into space, when you see the space shuttle or something, why does it seem to rotate 45 degrees? I could never understand. I was thinking, surely it goes straight up. Well, no, if you went straight up, you just end up shooting straight out the atmosphere and then it pulls straight back down. You rotate so you can enter into a circularized orbit in any type axis you want to go in. So, those two were developed by NASA, and they are basically asteroids coming in, about to hit, you need to do something to stop it. But, not going to go into that because they do take a long time. This is not a quick-paced game. You know, you can't think, right, I'm just going to have 5 minutes, I'll jump on Kerbal Space Program, forget it. So, start new, you've got 2 modes, Career and Sandbox. Sandbox, you start with every component fully available to you, build what you want, try and launch it into space, and pretty much do what you want. Career mode is, in essence, you start off with the very basic construction components, and yes, you've got to do experiments, research in space. When you land back on Kerbal, if you land back on Kerbal, then you gain research points. You use those points to unlock new components, more advanced components, more experiments that you can do. It's good. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to stick with the career mode. So you hit start, and you get presented with the in-game screen, which is this. Now, I'll give a brief overview. You have your space plane runway, or you just normal runway for planes. I've never yet built a plane that I've been able to get into space, because obviously planes need oxygen for the standard combustion engines. You have your space plane hangar. This is where you build your space planes. You have your astronaut recruitment complex to recruit more astronauts when yours die, and they will die, believe me. You have your research and development complex, your satellite tracking, or your space tracking complex to track your spaceships, your satellites, pretty much anything you've got in space, this thing tracks it. You have your rocket assembly building, and you have your rocket launch pad. Now I'm just going to skip the rest of them and concentrate on these 3 here, because these are the main points. This is your research and development complex. Now as you can see, I've got 0 research. so I can't unlock anything. Obviously this is what you start, this is your starting point. The next one you need 5 research points, and I get basically a bigger fuel tank, a small fuel tank, a mystery goo containment unit, which is research, and a stack decoupler, which is very important. That separates your rockets into stages, just like things like the Saturn V rocket from the Apollo days. So next one of importance is the space tracking object. Now this also gives you a good overview of the actual world yourself. So this is Kerbal, this is where you live. This is a representation of Earth. There is the Moon, which is meant to be the moon. A bit further out you have Minmus, which is another moon of Kerbal. Now, that's quite a long way, as you can imagine, but if we keep going out, these little question marks are unknown objects, asteroids basically from the redirect mission. Keep going out, and yeah, is the solar system itself. So from inner to outer you have Moho, Eve, obviously Kerbal, you have Duna, or Juna, you have Joule, and you have Elu. Now, another thing I should point out is some of these planets have their own moon systems, such as Joule. If we go into Joule and zoom in on that, you'll see that it does itself have plenty of moons. It has Paul, Bop, Tylo, and Val, and then obviously, and Lethe, and the planet itself. So there's plenty of places to go on this game, but before you start thinking about heading out here, you really need to just get your practicing on going to the moon, because it's, believe it or not, it is actually quite difficult itself. Without practice, it's not going to happen. So obviously anything you have in orbit will come up when you show the orbit and the name of the craft and everything else. You can plant flags on other planets and things, so you can find, to celebrate the fact that you've landed on them. So there's that. Now I'll go into the rockets, the rocket assembly building. Just build a simple rocket just to show you what it's like. So first thing here, command pod. You're going to need a place for your pilot to sit, right? Without that, you ain't going anywhere. Second thing you want to do is you're going to get something, a parachute. You need to land, and you don't want to land traveling a couple of 1,000 miles an hour. Propulsion, well, let's just stick a couple of little rocket fuel tanks on them and a rocket engine. So yeah, that should be good just to start off with. Now obviously remember, I don't have a stack decouplers unlocked yet, so everything that's getting launched here will have to land again. So you want to aim for water preferably. So best make sure to separate the stages here. This is where you can configure your rocket into different stages, which is very important when you get like very large rockets with multiple stages, which you will build. You will need to build them to get to the exoplanets and things like that. Well, I say exoplanets, that's the wrong term. Other planets, they're celestial bodies. But here's my little ship on the launch pad. Isn't it cute? She's not going to get very far because these rockets do burn through fuel. So power up the engine. There's my little pilot. Now you can hit either here, go first person inside, although trying to fly it like that is very difficult. So throttle up, hit space to launch, and we're away. Now obviously when you're in this mode, you can't really see where you're going, so we hit M, brings up the screen, and this is where you can see where you're going. Now I'm just trying at the minute, like I said, to just show you the game. As you can see, there's the Mun over there. It doesn't look that far, but believe me, you need a much bigger rocket. I'm currently at 5,000 meters, and I've almost used up all my liquid fuel. So you do need quite, well, not massively complex ships, but anywho, there we go. I've run out of fuel already, so I'll keep the scientific data. Could have got a lot more if I had a radio installed. My mistake for forgetting to put it on, but never mind. And chances are I'm quite possibly going to die because I'm not over water. So all of this stuff below, the fuel tanks and the actual liquid fueled engine, are going to hit the earth and quite possibly go bang. Now I might get lucky and I might miss and land in the water with the parachute deployed, which I best go ahead and do now. but I've got a sneaky feeling I'm not, so it's going to go horrific. But like I said, I'm not a good player at this game, to be honest with you. Now, as you can see, obviously this is a curve, and then it goes up and up and up basically until you get actually into orbit. But you can, there's mods out there which will give a thick atmosphere, so you've got clouds, you can have storms. Like I said, the mods are numerous and they are awesome. That's the only way to describe it, they really are. So this is definitely a game I highly recommend everybody should get. They really should, because it's such a good game. This is just the starting steps in a career to get things, and even then I've managed to cock it up, so you know, what can I say, sue me. So now we're going to wait for this to land. Obviously my parachute, I'm still 7,000 metres up. You've got your atmosphere gauge here, tells you the atmospheric pressure. Obviously I'm still in Kerbin's atmosphere, so obviously it'll end up in 0 when you're in orbit, and parachutes won't do anything without, let's say, oxygen, without an atmosphere. They need it to slow down. And yep, I'm going to land pretty much on the launch pad area, so this is quite possibly going to die. Poor little Jebediah. But never mind. Now I'm not going to go into the tutorials of how to get into orbit and things like that. It is relatively straightforward. There's thousands of good YouTubers out there that can teach you how to get into orbit, how to dock successfully in space, how to transfer between planetary bodies. There's mods that can you install in your spaceship and it'll do it for you. The parachute still hasn't opened. Oh, there we go. Open to 500 meters and slow it down to 10 meters a second. Yes, this is going to hurt a lot. So, is this game worth your money? Yes. That's to put it simple. Yes, it is. It really is. I've done a few now of these Is It Worth series. I think this is the third one. Some of them are free to play, some of them you pay, and the whole concept behind is it worth it, it's not just the is it worth your money, it's also is it worth your time. This is a game which will keep you occupied for a very, very long time, because there is so much to do. And I'm going to die. Well, I lost the engine in the fuel tank, but Jebediah has survived on the runway, and in fact, go ahead and EVA, and there we go, me little Jebediah, me little astronaut. And you can do this, mind, EVAs, you can do them on other planets and moons, you know, you can do this. Hell, see if we can plant the flag. Yep, and there we go. We first landed on Kerbin, so to speak. There we go, that's what it was, a lol crash. Wasn't exactly an achievement. For science, EVA report. Yeah, I'll keep the data. Surface sample. The substances, what makes our scientists yell at us when we go into the labs without cleaning our boots first. You know, keep the data. And then try and get back into the spaceship. Now obviously you do have jetpacks, but I don't think it's going to really work too well on Earth's gravity. Is it going to work, or am I just going to die? No, I'm just going to die. Well, I'm not going to die, sorry, but I'm not going to do it. So anyways, hit Space Center. Now this is where the space tracking site comes into play, because obviously it's only there, but if you imagine I'd landed in the middle of the ocean here somewhere, what do? Well, that's easy. We cover him like that. Now obviously your astronaut would still be in the ship, but obviously I got him out and couldn't get back into the ship, so recover the vessel as well. So there's more. So in total I've got quite a nice bit of scientific points. Pardon me. So what do you do with that? Well, like I said before, I now have 19 science points. This costs 5. So research them, and there we go. So now I've got another fuel tank, mystery goo, scientific thing, and a stack decoupler. Next ones you can get is basically bigger engines, a Sepatron, and a solid fuel booster. Now the Sepatron's basically strapped to the side. You put these solid fuel boosters or extra fuel tanks if you so wish onto them, configure them in stages so that when you're flying up, once the solid fuel boosters run out, you trigger these in the jets and the side solid fuel boosters, just like you see with the space shuttles with their solid fuel boosters when they jettison as it's going up. There we go. You have your stability, which is your aerodynamic nose cones, your winglets to control your rockets and whatnot, another decoupler. Here we'll have another engine, a landing strut for when you want to land on the moon. You do need something to land on. If you land on your engine, it's going to go bang, and you have your radial parachute. Now I've only got 14 research points left, so I don't have anything to research here. So what do you do now? Well, this is where you go into the next step. So here's the little rocket. Instead of doing out like that, modifying it any way, put a stack decoupler on there. Put that into there, its own. I like to separate me things like this into their own action groups. Drag the rocket up a bit. Put another couple of engines, another couple of fuel tanks, because it is going to have another engine now. And why not? Just for the fun of it, I'll have 2 solid fuel boosters. Now these can be tricky, especially since I don't have any stack decouplers because Separatrons, because now they are permanently fixed to the body, so they will provide lift. However, once you turn them on, you can't turn them off. And yeah, basically when they go off, that's it. You're carrying them, which is excess weight, which you don't want. But here, so I'm not going to go into the science part of it. Well, actually, yeah, I may as well when I'm here. Put 2 mystery goo containers on it. And there we go, that should be good for launch. So like I said, this is a very, very, very poorly designed rocket because I've got the 2 things I've just given off drag on the side. So let's see, mystery goo on Kerbal. Well, it's only 3 sides, but I'll keep it. So power up the engines and ignite, and there you see the rocket fuel boosters, and my main rocket is now firing. As you can see, there's the fuel. Now the solid fuels will run out soon of power. And obviously I can't turn them off or jettison them, but I can turn down my main liquid fuel engine to see it conserve fuel for now. However, once those are about to start run out, increase the throttle just so you don't lose any forward momentum. But you see, here's the problem now. I don't have the radial decouplers. I'm carrying them, so it's just extra drag and excess weight. Not really what you want, but never mind. So bring up the orbital map. Let's see what my apoapsis is. There we go, 10,000 meters. Now the apoapsis is your highest point in orbit. Now 10,000 meters, I'm just going to start bringing it over to the 90 degrees to start the 90-degree turn, which I was saying I used to wonder why when I was a child and I would watch the space shuttles launching on TV, and I always wondered why did they do that. Well, it's so they can get into orbit, as I now know. Now it is quite handy. You've got a little yellow indicator if you have a look at the nav ball there, which shows the prograde. Now basically what that does, if you follow the prograde, that will help you get into a circularized orbit. Basically it shows you how to increase your orbit. You have another one on the opposite side, which is retrograde, which is what you want to do if you're in an orbit and you want to come back into land. So there we go. My apoapsis is now up at 37,000 feet, but my fuel is starting to run low, as you can see in this stage. So what do I do? Well, as soon as it runs out, I'm going to hit space and jettison this whole bottom half. So where is it? There we go. And ignite that engine. And we are continuing. Rest falls away there and it'll just re-enter and crash. Not much of a problem. Right, so keep bringing that up so we'll get it to about 100,000 meters. There we go, 100,000 meters. And then what you want to do is left click on it, add maneuver. This is your maneuver node planner, very helpful. So the apps want to turn prograde and initiate a burn. Overdone it a bit there. Let's say 121, 90,000, so I can bring it a bit. 100,000 by 80. 90, 100. You want to try and get it so it's close to 100 each. That's not too bad. So basically, there's the planner come up. In T minus 1 minute 40 seconds and counting, I will need to commence a burn for 23 seconds to get myself into a circularized orbit, which this blue thing on the nav ball there is the planner. So I'll just get myself into position there. Now you can accelerate and decelerate the time with the comma and full stop buttons on your keyboard, but you want to be careful because you don't want to overshoot too much. As you can see, the seconds count very quickly, and I'm not even that far up. So slow them down to normal speed, 3, 2, 1, and initiate the burn. Now if we go back into this, you'll see the blue line, which is my current orbit, and the orange one, which will be the final orbit once this manoeuvre has been carried out. So carry on doing that. Now I'm running out of fuel, as you can see, so I've got to be very careful that I don't end up trapped. And that'll do. Should have enough fuel. And there we have it. I am now in orbit around Kerbal. So open mystery queue. Keep the data. Let's take a crew report. Now you can do EVAs in orbit. Personally I don't, because I suck at controlling them with the EVA suits. So get rid of that node, and there we'll have it. I am now in orbit. For some reason I'm also focused on Kerbal, not my little spaceship, but never mind. It's not much of not a big drop problem. Now you can accelerate the time up to so fast because I'm below 120,000 meters, but you know, there we go. There's the sun, and it's now disappeared behind Kerbal. Now I'll just slow it down because obviously you do have your electrical charge, which powers things like transmitters, lights, various other things. So if you have solar panels, this is something you have to pay. Remember, you do dip behind the shadow of the planet you're orbiting, so you need to make sure you plan ahead for it. So I'll just keep coming, you know, speed the time back up. This should put it into perspective for you. We're now 50 times speed, and I'm still trying to get back round. Oh, there we go. There's sunrise. Such a beautiful thing. So there we have it. Coming back onto the daylight side of Kerbal. Now, time to try and re-enter with a very limited amount of fuel. So put a maneuver node on here. Burn retrograde. Oh well, there we go. I need to burn for a second apparently. So how do you do that? Well, like I was saying before, just basically think of yourself slowing down. You're driving down the road. As you can see, I have my engine pointing the direction I'm travelling. So when I initiate the burn, it'll slow my forward velocity down and allow us to drop out with gravity. Now at the minute it doesn't have realistic atmospheric re-entry problems, i.e. heat. You do have the visual effects, but they don't really do any damage. However, yet again, there is amazing mod makers out there that have created mods which do cause things like that to happen. So, you know, how difficult do you want the game to play? How difficult do you want to play? Sorry, how difficult do you want the game to be? I'm currently sat at 111,000 feet, so 111,000 meters. Currently travelling, it's 2,212 meters a second. So I'm shifting, let's just say. So the node, I've passed it, but never mind. Just burn it like that, and that should be me. There we go. That's me dropped out of orbit, as you can see by the blue line intersecting the planet. And I wonder, actually, I might actually end up landing on Kerbal here, but we'll see. So that's that done. I'm now on a course to Vienna. I no longer lead the engine and the fuel tank, so I'll just go ahead. Oh, what an idiot. I forgot to separate them. Never mind, I've deployed my parachute instead. Fortunately, I don't have the mod on. This is just the basic, the core game as it comes, so I don't have to worry about my chute burning up. thankfully, otherwise that would have been quite embarrassing, and I would have had to remake the whole video to avoid looking like an idiot on YouTube. But never mind, so I'll speed this time up, because it will take, if I don't do it, it will take a good 10-15 minutes. So you can see my altitude is now starting to gradually decrease, however my speed is starting to increase. Hence, this is why you see the space shuttle and the Apollo missions have the shielded, I suppose would be the best way to say it, underbelly to prevent atmospheric re-entry, because it does get very hot from the atmosphere, because as you can see at the minute I don't have an atmosphere, but obviously by the time I land it'll be down there, so I am coming in quite fast through some thick atmosphere. Now obviously ignore the terrain graphics at the minute, because I've turned the graphical settings down in order to, you know, record. So nope, don't want. Yep, obviously physics warp. It's basically if you warp the time below a certain height, it can damage your vessel. But I'm in space, I'm not really bothered. My parachute's open, I'm coming to land one way or the other. Now I'm hoping I'm going to miss the space complex, because obviously I'm landing this whole thing. I don't want to repeat of blowing up on the runway again. You know, especially with the mystery goes, I don't want to lose my scientific data. So I'm coming in. I still haven't seen any atmospheric re-entry things yet. Now maybe it was just a mod I had on without realising, I don't know. But normally you will have it, although I am still relatively high. Oh, there we go. You can see the flames starting to come off now. From the, that's what happens when you re-enter 2,000 meters per second. But obviously it is slowing us down now, and you can see the atmosphere is starting to get thicker. Now it will obviously disappear. However, if you are still going supersonic, this red flame will be replaced with a white supersonic. Same visuals basically, and evidently there's my parachute deployed. However, it's not going to get damaged because I don't have the deadly re-entry mods, I think that's what it's called, enabled. So just check the map again. Yep, I've missed the spaceport. Instead I'm going to land in the mountains. Perfect. This is not going to be fun, I tell you, but nothing much I can do about it now. So there we go, 16,000 meters up. Speeds dropped down to 800, approaching 700 meters a second, which is now enough to get rid of the heat and just wait for the slowdown. Now, another thing I should note is be very careful using the time warp at this stage, because it's not uncommon for your parachute to fail to open. So generally the rule of thumb I do is I might use time warp until I hit 5,000 feet, and then drop it down to normal speed. This way I don't have to worry about it failing to open. Parachute itself, obviously, it was seen before, will open on fully at 500 meters, and I'll plough in. But obviously this is the height above the current surface, so sea level. As you can see, I'm approaching mountains, but your parachute will still open. Just wait and see if I can see the shadow. Yep, there we go. I'm 1,000 meters up, and my parachute is now opened. Still constant. Well, I might have disabled the shadows. Never mind. It's not much of a big problem. So now that we've come towards the end of the video, I'll answer the question that I posed at the beginning. Is it worth it? 100% yes. It's that simple. If not just for the game itself and the countless things you can do and the countless hours you'll spend attempting them, it's a yes for the sense of achievement of when you finally build your own little ship, fly it off to the moon and do a successful moon landing. There we go, I've lost my engine, but my ship's alive. When you do your first moon landing and then return back to Kerbal, you feel so proud with yourself that you've actually done something like that, you know, because it is, you know, you've got to use angles and everything else to make sure that you're going to align your axes and your planes to make sure that you're going to intersect the target that you want to head to. You know, it's really complex stuff, but the game teaches you in a very user-friendly way. So even though the game is very technical, it's also very user-friendly, thankfully to the tutorials. So I'll head back to the Space Centre now to wrap the video up and recover the plane, to recover the rocket, and see what scientific values we got from it. Untitled spacecraft recover. And then we've got 42 scientific points because I had the mystery goo containers which I recovered. So, you know, you always get more for recovering stuff. So, like I said, thank you very much for watching. As per normal, please feel free to comment, like, share and subscribe, dislike if you don't agree with what I've got to say on this video. Perfectly your choice and perfectly respectful of it. Thank you very much for watching, and this is a Twister saying thank you and good night.